Maura Murray was born on May 4th, 1982, in Hanson, Massachusetts. The youngest of five children in a close-knit Irish Catholic family, she was intelligent, athletic, and disciplined. She ran track and excelled academically, eventually earning admission to the prestigious United States Military Academy at West Point. After a year at West Point, she transferred to the University of Massachusetts Amherst to study nursing. Her life seemed structured and promising. She had a boyfriend, Bill Rausch, who was in the military. She kept regular contact with her family and maintained a rigorous academic and athletic schedule. But by early 2004, signs of stress began to emerge. Maura had recently been caught using stolen credit card numbers to order food, resulting in a minor disciplinary issue. She was also involved in a car accident while driving her father's vehicle. She had reportedly been drinking more heavily in recent weeks. Friends later described her as distant and withdrawn. Her academic performance had declined, and her once meticulous attention to detail had started to slip. It was as if something or someone was weighing heavily on her mind. According to her sister Kathleen, Maura had expressed dissatisfaction with her life and hinted at wanting to get away. But even these remarks didn't point to a full disappearance. On February 5th, Maura broke down crying at her job as a campus security officer. Her supervisor said it was as if a switch had flipped. Maura was suddenly inconsolable. When asked what was wrong, she only said, "My sister." But her sister later confirmed that nothing serious had occurred. On February 6th, Maura spent hours on the phone with her boyfriend and family. No one noticed anything especially alarming in her tone, but she seemed distracted. That evening, she browsed websites for lodging in Vermont and New Hampshire. On February 7th, her father, Fred Murray, visited Amherst. He was helping Maura shop for a used car. That night, she took his Toyota Corolla and got into a minor accident. The car was damaged but drivable. On February 8th, cell phone records show several calls to motels in Vermont. She also emailed her boyfriend, "I love you more, stud. I'll talk to you later." That day, she also made a call to a fellow nursing student. What was said remains unknown. On February 9th, Maura emailed her professors saying she'd be missing classes for a week due to a family emergency. No such emergency existed. She withdrew $280 from her bank account, purchased alcohol, and drove north from Amherst. Her destination was unclear. She didn't tell her family. She didn't tell her boyfriend. She simply vanished from her known routine. The route she took appeared deliberate. Her printed directions indicated interest in several small lodging options in remote wooded areas. That evening, around 7:27 p.m., a local woman in Haverhill, New Hampshire, heard a thud outside. Looking out her window, she saw a car in a snowbank. She called the police. Another neighbor, Butch Atwood, a school bus driver, stopped and spoke briefly to the driver, Maura. She told him she had already called AAA, which wasn't true. He drove off and called the police himself. By the time officers arrived, Maura was gone. Her car was locked. Her belongings were inside: a box of wine, a book on Gothic literature, printed directions to Vermont motels, and some damaged alcohol containers. The windshield was cracked. The airbags had deployed. On the car's roof was a rag stuffed into the tailpipe, which some believe may indicate a mechanical problem. But no one could explain why she would do this herself. There were no footprints, no blood, no struggle, just emptiness. Interestingly, the police response time was short, less than 15 minutes, yet Maura had vanished without leaving any clear trace. The timeline is tight, which makes the window for her disappearance even more mysterious. Police and search teams scoured the area over the next several days. Dogs picked up her scent heading east, then lost it. A theory emerged. Maura had gotten into another vehicle. But whose and why? There were no reports of a second car in the area. No surveillance, no credible sightings. Fred Murray launched his own investigation, placing flyers, contacting the press, and pleading with law enforcement to treat the case as criminal. But the case remained classified as a missing person with no signs of foul play. Search teams combed the woods, used helicopters and thermal imaging, but came up empty. No items of clothing, no torn fabric, no blood, nothing. Volunteers, hikers, and even psychics were consulted. Several wells and ponds were searched and drained. Still, the silence persisted. Some believe Maura orchestrated her own disappearance. The email to professors, the withdrawal of money, the alcohol, these are interpreted as signs of a planned escape. Some internet sleuths believe she may have been pregnant or escaping a secret abusive relationship. But Maura took no extra clothing, no ID, no cash beyond the $280. No one she knew ever heard from her again. Others speculate that she wandered off and succumbed to the elements. But despite exhaustive searches with thermal imaging, helicopters, and dogs, no remains were ever found. Some even believe she may have fallen into a culvert or well, or died in an unsearched section of the forest, later buried by snow. This remains the most chilling theory, that Maura was picked up by someone, voluntarily or not, and met with foul play. Some theories suggest she was taken by a passing trucker. Others point to known offenders in the area. A few even suspect law enforcement corruption, citing delays and inconsistencies in the early investigation. None of them have led to evidence. The Maura Murray case became one of the first to gain traction through online forums like Web Sleuths and Reddit. Amateur investigators pored over phone records, maps, and eyewitness statements. Entire communities formed around dissecting every aspect of the timeline. Several documentaries and podcasts further fueled interest, turning the case into a digital phenomenon. The Oxygen Network aired a multi-part series. Journalists and true crime YouTubers added fuel to the obsession, but still no solid leads emerged. In 2019, authorities excavated the basement of a nearby home after cadaver dogs detected a scent. Nothing was found. The owner had ties to criminal activity, but no conclusive connection to Maura. Every new piece of information seemed to raise more questions than answers. Maura's family has never stopped searching. Her father believes she was abducted and possibly trafficked. He has accused law enforcement of withholding information and mishandling the case. Her boyfriend Bill, who was stationed in Oklahoma at the time, has remained mostly silent, though some critics online have raised questions about inconsistencies in his timeline and phone records. A voicemail he allegedly left on Maura's phone the night she disappeared remains a subject of intense scrutiny. Despite the attention, the investigation has produced no major leads, no arrests, no confirmed sightings, no body. In 2021, Maura's case was officially designated as cold, though technically still open. Every February, a small memorial service is held at the site of the crash. A scholarship fund in her name was also created, and her case remains a symbol of persistence for missing persons advocates. Nearly 2 decades after her disappearance, Maura Murray remains missing. Her case is one of silence. No witnesses, no confessions, no evidence substantial enough to bring answers. It's a story that reflects the limits of both traditional and crowdsourced investigation. A photograph of Maura still hangs from a tree near the crash site. Faded by time, it watches over the road that swallowed her whole. Until someone comes forward or something is found, Maura's story remains frozen in that February night, a mystery that continues to whisper through the woods of New Hampshire, and perhaps always will.